What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to another Fail Friday. Now, today was supposed to be a completely different video, if I'm being honest with you. Today was supposed to be introducing a brand new thing, but it just kind of fell through. My guest and I just couldn't get the schedules to work, and so we're going to try to shoot for that video next week, so I apologize for the delay on that. But for today, we're going to do a Fail Friday, and I want to do this one a little bit different than what we normally do, and I want to talk about more of what my opponent could do better instead of necessarily just commentating the battle, because I do those in the regular Wi-Fi battles, and so I want to give a little bit of a difference to the Fail Fridays. And so why did either myself or my opponent fail in these attempts? So for this past Wednesday, we used our Tyrantrum team, and I struggled to get a good match for you guys. I think I tried recording for roughly around like 5 hours to get a match that I was at least somewhat satisfied with. It wasn't necessarily that I didn't win matches or anything like that. It was just that it's really difficult to get Tyrantrum in a good position to where it can set up, because it has to set up or else it won't win. And it's just a difficult mon to do that with, but it's a great mon, and you guys have shown that with your views, so I appreciate that. Again, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to click the bell so that you get notified of all of my videos, and of course share it with your friends. We're trying to grow this year. We're trying to grow a lot this year, and I'm excited for what this new year holds. We will soon be talking about the new Pokemon Snap trailer that came out, which is really cool. I'm really excited about that, and all of the new things coming out with this year. It's going to be an exciting year for Pokemon, and I hope you guys are excited as well. So let's go ahead and jump into today's Fail Friday. Okay, so looking at team preview for this first one, we're going to do 2 of these today, actually, because they're pretty quick. This first one is interesting because we have double Zygarde in both of its different forms. Obviously, the 2 Zygardes do 2 completely different things. So one is the more bulky, like, setup kind of thing, and then you've got the Zydoge, the little doggy, and that is more of the fast, like, get in, get out type of thing, but it's a lot weaker as far as its offenses go. And then we've got Spectra, which is a huge threat. We've got a Rillaboom, which is a huge threat, and then Articuno. Now, one thing that I'm seeing on this is a huge weakness to ice, and just Weavile in general, right? So Weavile, with the combination of ice and dark, hits pretty much everything for super effective, and so that makes the Weavile extremely valuable in this. And that's one thing that I want to stress in looking at team preview. What is it that you have that your opponent really struggles to deal with, right? What is something that your opponent can't handle, and how can you exploit that? And so that's one thing that I really want to reiterate in this match. And seeing in team preview, Weavile hits almost all of the Pokemon for super effective, everything but Articuno. Actually, I think we hit Articuno super effectively as well, so we hit all 6. But here I make a really good play, right? We're in against a grass type, which is awesome, right? However, Choice Banded Rillaboom will OHKO a Weavile every time if it goes for Grassy Glide. So I have to switch out because I'm fearing that. What comes out? Leaf Storm. Not at all what I thought, but okay, that is exactly what was clicked. So it's fine, it's Leaf Storm, which is even better for my Moltres because I'm going to take, like no damage. But Grassy Glide could have had a chance of burning, which would have definitely helped out. But yeah, Choice Banded Grassy Glide always OHKOs a Weavile, just because Weavile is super frail. And making me edit to get rid of all of these nicknames, of course. I can't stress this enough, especially to my audience, guys. If there is ever a service or a person or anything who wants to charge you money to make Pokemon for you, don't do it, okay? It's an exploitation of, like, people of all ages, usually children, but it's an exploitation of people. You don't need to pay for Pokemon. If you need Pokemon, let me know. I can show you how to get Pokemon, and I can show you how to breed them yourself, how to get a hold of them, all that stuff, and you don't have to pay anything for it. Don't do it. So we see Hyper Beam Articuno for about 2 seconds, and then that's gone. So yeah, no, that wasn't really much of a concern for us. So yeah, Articuno's gone, which was the only thing that I was like questionable about on Weavile. So yeah, Weavile is looking even stronger here. I'm gonna go Slow King on the Lunala. I'm just trying to see what this thing wants to go for, as we see Phantom Force, which is very weird. It's very weird for this thing. So I'm gonna get right back out of there, and we're gonna go out into our Ferrothorn here. Ferrothorn obviously will take this hit really well, and especially the reason we're doing this is for the Iron Barb's damage. So as soon as we get a hit off on this, we'll break that Shadow Shield, which will be really nice. Obviously the Grassy Terrain is a thing, but we also carry the knockoff. So we're definitely thinking about that. So Grassy Terrain comes up, but it doesn't heal as much as what Iron Barbs does. So that is one thing that I was thinking about, is the Iron Barbs is going to get this thing Shadow Shield off, and I believe that knockoff is a guaranteed KO on this if it's running no bulk and Shadow Shield is broken. With Shadow Shield up, there's absolutely zero chance of KOing, but knockoff does a ton of damage to this when the Shadow Shield is broken. So that's really good. Really good information for me to know, and really good information just in general. So I'm gonna click that. It covers this thing staying in. It covers this thing switching out into something else. I'm not really worried about what my opponent chooses to do here. So yeah, my opponent takes his time, which is fine, which is totally fine, because my opponent is kind of in a weird position here, because, you know, you don't really know what I'm gonna do here. Knockoff definitely makes a whole lot of sense, but Ferrothorns are a little all over the place in what they typically run. So, you know, some run Power Whip, a lot of them don't. Some run Leech Seed. I typically don't run Leech Seed on mine. I just am not as much of a fan of the Leech Seed set, but that's just personal preference. The Leech Seed set is great, but it goes ahead and switches out actually into Zygarde 50%, which is totally fine. I'm totally fine with getting a knockoff on this thing. Smack. And so no item. So yeah, always run items. That's another thing. Run an item. I don't care what it is, just run an item, because you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage when you don't run items on these things. Because you could have had a lot of trouble. You could have caused me some trouble with, you know, if it's a life orb, do some extra damage. If it's a, you know, choice item, you know, that could be a thing. Goes for E-Speed. That play doesn't make any sense to me at all, because, you know, Iron Barb's damage and you're doing no damage to me. So yeah, not a good trade on my opponent's part there. If you're gonna click anything, I would say 1,000 Arrows is the play, because you don't make contact with that move, and you're gonna do a decent chunk to me, not a great amount, but I'm totally comfortable staying in on this, because I can't switch in my, I can't switch in Moltres, because I'm gonna take a ton of damage from that. So I really have to stay in here and just click Body Press. And we're about to enter a very exciting part of the battle, where we just kind of sit here and just Body Press and 1,000 Arrows and 1,000 Waves and all the good things. So let's just skip ahead a little bit. So finally, Ferrothorn goes down after all this time, but we got the behemoth that is Zygarde 100% down to about like 5%, which is totally the goal there. I didn't really mind sacking Ferrothorn in that case, just to go ahead and get this thing low, just because I didn't really have a free switch into anything else. I could have sacked Tyrantrum at any point and saved Ferrothorn's health, but in this case, you know, I was still kind of hoping for a sweep there at the end. So I go for knockoff here, just because I know that I'm not concerned about going down to an extreme speed, and knockoff covers a switch in, and Lunala does switch right into this. Triple Axle, I believe, was a 2-hit KO on this anyway, so you know, it's not, it didn't really end up making a huge difference what I clicked there. But yeah, we do go ahead and click the knockoff and just Oko the Lunala. And so that's really nice, getting that completely out of the way. All of the Ubers starting to slowly drop here to this Weavile. And so now my opponent comes back into this, seeing that I switched out last time, and coming back into this because, you know, thinks that Leaf Storm is threatening. Again, I'm fearing the Grassy Glide and it being possibly choice banded. That was also turn 1, you know, when I assumed that all the Pokemon had items. And so now I've learned that, you know, that may not always be the case. So yeah, I switch back into Moltres here just to take whatever my opponent wants to go for, and then I should be able to click Roost pretty freely next turn. So yeah, it clicks Relief Storm again, does maybe like 5%. It does no damage at all. So I don't know. But this is a free Roost for me. If you want to stay in, fine, do it. But you pretty much need to switch out here because you're doing 0 damage to me, and my Moltres is looking strong. I love Moltres. It's such a good mon nowadays. The heavy duty boots really took it from absolute like bottom tier to very, very viable, actually. It's crazy how one item, one ability, 1 or 2 moves being added can take a mon from completely useless to completely busted. And now we've seen the same thing, except going the opposite way with the removal of certain moves. You know, certain mons really appreciated certain moves and then they're gone. And so now it's not great. And so it made them significantly worse. Now I decided to stay in here, which in my opinion was probably a misplay. I probably should have switched out here, but yeah, because that does a ton of damage. But I really was wanting to get some prior damage off on this, and we do very good damage to Spectrier, especially with a crit. The crit, I don't believe, ended up mattering there, but it definitely made things a lot easier. And so now I'm thinking, you know, what do I do as far as my end game here? Because I'm thinking of how we win this in the end. Obviously, this thing is the only thing that's not weak to ice, and if the Rillaboom is just going to click the grass type move, the Leaf Storm, every single time, and it's not going to be choice banded with the priority, then I'm really not concerned about it. So I decided to just straight switch in Weavile, and yeah, we can take a Shadow Ball really, really easily. The worst case would have been clicking Will-O-Wisp, but I was completely fine with switching this in just because, you know, I was in on a Moltres before, and so clicking Will-O-Wisp is extremely unlikely unless, you know, you make an absolute like god tier play. So I felt pretty safe in doing this, and yeah, it's a good play, I think. And so we can click Ice Shard here, and we're pretty safe in doing so. I do know that we guaranteed Oko the Zygarde Doggo form, and so my opponent again makes a misplay here of going into this just straight up. I don't understand this play at all here, and so I just am going ahead and going for the Ice Shard, and that's going to do a ton of damage to this. And so I can just click Ice Shard again for free because the terrain is going to go away this turn. So I know that you can't go for anything priority, not that I think that it even has it at this point because I've only seen Leaf Storm. So Ice Shard is completely free on this turn right here. And so we're gonna click that, knock this out, and now we have a bunch of things that really don't appreciate Weavile sitting in the back. So we have Spectrier at about a quarter health, and then we have a Zygarde 100% at about 5%, and then a Zydoge sitting at 100%. But I already know that as long as this thing isn't Focus Sash, then we go ahead and Oko it with a Choice Banded Ice Shard. And this thing, it doesn't matter if it's Focus Sash because we have Rocks up. So guaranteed Oko here, not a roll at all. That was a free KO for sure. My opponent, if my opponent had Extreme Speed there, that would have been what to click. You click it with that, and then you go into the other Zygarde and hit Extreme Speed as well. That would have been the play, but you know, it is what it is. My opponent is not going to appreciate the Ice Shards from the Weavile. Choice Banded Weavile is kind of insane when you look at it. I love it. And so my opponent does end up actually forfeiting here. So let's go ahead and look at our second match for today. So our second match of the day actually took place right after the first one in recording order, minus a few like disconnects, like they join and then they immediately leave. That happens all the time, but it's fine. So it's really interesting to me that I had two matches in a row where they both broke species clause. And so if you're not familiar with small gun rules, the species clause prevents you from bringing two Pokemon of the same dex number. So you could have two mons of the same evolution line. So you could have Slowbro and Slowking because they don't share a Pokedex number. But you have double Urshifu on this one, and you had double Zygarde on the one previous. And so I wanted to show both of those off because this opponent actually doesn't play as poorly as my first opponent, but it's very interesting seeing both Urshifus, especially since good old Dark Urshifu just got banned. And there's also a Zygarde on this, which is also an Uber, plus Necrozma Dawnwings, all of the Ubers. And so we definitely need to bring justice and honor to our families and all that good stuff. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and jump into this one. I led with the Thundurus on this one. Thundurus is usually my lead just because it is the fastest thing on my team because it is the Scarfer. And I typically just click Volt Switch. It helps me to see what my opponent is going to do on the first turn, because right here my opponent has a very easy decision. Do you stay in and let this take a ton of damage for no reason, or do you switch out into Zygarde and make the correct play? You know, because Volt Switch is a guaranteed KO on this, as long as it's no bulk. And even with a bunch of bulk, it still does a ton of damage. Like, I don't even think that there's a way you win this outside of like Assault Vest, which would be very odd. So yeah, this thing just goes down turn one. And so here I'm gonna make a play that I try to teach any of my people who are learning from me is, so right here, I'm going to go into Weavile here, trying to bait in the Cinderace. I don't want to go into anything else to allow the Zygarde to come in, because Zygarde just needs to stay in the back for now, because every time that comes in, I'm kind of stuck. As you saw in the last game, I'm kind of stuck just leaving Ferrothorn in, and I really don't want to have to get into that again if I don't have to. And so I'm going to force my opponent into the Cinderace, where I can immediately go out into Moltres, and Moltres covers the switch perfectly. So I don't really, I don't mind that interaction. Having to double there, I still get some value out of the turn, and that's the whole thing, is getting value out of everything that you do in Pokemon. If you're ever making moves and they don't really do anything for you, then that's a bad thing, and you definitely want to change that. Now, my opponent going for High Jump Kick was a little risky there, because it really only covers for a Tyrantrum switch in, and so that would be my opponent predicting me to predict Pyro Ball going Tyrantrum. So that's what that was, but me going to Moltres, in my opinion, is much more obvious. And so High Jump Kick could have gotten him burned right there. So in my opinion, that was a little too risky, but it is what it is. So we do see the Life Orb on this, and does get the 30% Gunk Shot poison chance. When my opponents get it, it's nearly 100%. When I do it, it's about 20% of the time, if not less. So, you know, I'm not sure how those odds work out, but now I'm in a really rough position, because now Cinderace kind of nay-nays on me, because I can't really go Ferrothorn comfortably because, you know, Pyro Ball, and Slowking ends up being my best option for this, which is a little weird, right? Because this isn't my physical wall at all. This is my special wall, and Gunk Shot is still gonna do a good amount of damage. So Life Orb Cinderace, it's a thing and it hurts. But at the same time, now my opponent only has one more turn to survive. I'm gonna go ahead and click Psyshock here. I would like to go ahead and take this thing out. It doesn't really matter what I click here, just because you know, my opponent's gonna take himself out with the Life Orb. So it really doesn't matter what I click there. But I can't really reliably go back into the Moltres, because I really don't want to lose that, and this can recover with Regenerator. And so just having the awareness of being able to get that health back with Regenerator is really the best thing here. And so I can still save this for later, although this being in does invite in the Zygarde, and so I don't really like that. However, my opponent decides to go Regidrago, which as at this point in the battle, I'm like, oh, this is fine. Regidrago is totally fine. You know, everything's good. And it was about this time that I realized that everything wasn't as good as what I thought. So Dragon Pulse comes out, which is fine. It's totally fine. It does like almost a quarter though. And to a Ferrothorn taking a resisted move, a quarter makes things dangerous, especially when you know that there is a more powerful move that this thing learns, which it immediately now goes for. So at this point, I'm realizing, wait a minute, this thing can do about half to me, which is a little scary. So setting rocks here, I think, was a little bit of a misplay on my part. You know, rocks are great, especially for breaking sashes and things. But in my opinion, I think that was a little bit of a misplay on my part. I think it was definitely to go ahead and click knockoff. I think this thing was Dragon Fang in the end. If I'm not mistaken, I think this thing ended up being Dragon Fang or some other move or some other item that boosted dragon moves, which makes a whole lot of sense to me. We just know that it is not choiced in any way because it was able to switch up moves. And so yeah, this is me like semi-panicking a little bit in just trying to figure out what I need to sack in order to get something in that beats this. So yeah, Regidrago's a little bit of a threat, to be honest with you. It's a little bit of a threat. So at this point, I consider Slow King because of the Assault Vest and the switch back out, but that doesn't really gain me a whole lot. So I kind of just decide, you know, I could get some health back with this, or I could just sack it because I may need Ferrothorn as a like backup to my backup for the Zygarde. And so I decided to just kind of let this thing go. And yeah, so we just go ahead and let Slow King go down. Unfort for Slow King, but it's totally fine. It did all right. It did all right. So now we can go Weavile for free. So we know that it's not Scarfed because it switched moves, which is a very important thing to know. And so yeah, we're pretty free here just to click Triple Axle. It's a guaranteed KO. And it covers Zygarde, it covers this. Anything else that wants to switch in really isn't going to appreciate it. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and stay in and take the Triple Axle here. Bop, double bop, lives on one, and then we take it out with a third one. My heart sank a little bit right there, expecting me to miss my third one because, you know, Dapper Luck is a thing. So I was kind of expecting to miss my third one, but we didn't. And so we're fine. Everything's fine. It's all good. So yeah, my opponent now decides that that he wants to go out into the Necrozma Dawnwings, which is, again, such a cool design mon, but it is not good for OU. It is very, very strong in what it can do. It can do a lot of different things. This thing can Trick Room, it can Stealth Rock, and it can sweep. It absolutely can sweep. And so I've got to be really, really careful with how I deal with this because I can still lose this. This game is not over, even though it's a 3v5. Ferrothorn is my best switch in here. I'm still trying to hold on to hope that Tyrantrum can do something in the end, but that faith is slowly fleeting from me, unfortunately. So we do see a Charge Beam, which is very unusual, but also somewhat scary because now this thing's at +1. So yeah, Charge Beam, very unconventional, but in this case could end up being kind of effective. So yeah, I'm a little scared by that. So I'm gonna click Knock Off here. Basically force my opponent to hit me with something really big. So +1 Moongeist Beam coming out here from the Necrozma. Look at that. Cool animation. And it's going to be more than enough to take out my Ferrothorn there. So yeah, Ferrothorn was never going to take that, but we can go back into Weavile here and click Knock Off on this, and we should be good to go. I don't believe Triple Axle was a KO from full health, which is why we didn't click it here. So I think I actually had to click Knock Off in this case. Otherwise we wouldn't have picked up the KO. So yeah, go ahead and click the Knock Off. It was a guaranteed KO there, and so yeah, we go ahead and take that out. Perfect. Love that. So again, seeing that Weavile was the threat at the beginning of the game is huge because now we play that into our end game, right? We see that we have to let Weavile be the star. It's not going to be Tyrantrum this game, unfortunately. And so in comes the Urshifu, actually. And yeah, Knockoff is not doing anything to this, and we're choice banded. So I got to get out. I got to get out of here. And so now Moltres is the switch in. Moltres is a switch in as both a sack and a hope that Flame Body might possibly activate when you click a move, and actually goes for Iron Head. Does not get the burn, which is, you know, it is what it is, it's fine. But Iron Head is interesting because, in my opinion, you shouldn't have clicked that. I think Wicked Blow is the play there, and I'm gonna click Roost in case I actually survive. My opponent does click Iron Head again, which seems to indicate that it's choice banded, and it does get burned, unfortunately, for my opponent. So that is going to really neuter this thing's power a lot. So that's really good for us. And so, yeah, you know, we don't have Hurricane on Thunderous because it doesn't get it. I don't know why they didn't give Hurricane to Thunderous. I think that would have been really awesome if they did. But now we just go right back into Weavile. So again, Weavile is just having to come in, take a KO, switch back out, come in, take a KO, switch out, and just be kind of the revenge killer for the team. But that's totally fine. So we go ahead and click the low kick here. Again, a guaranteed KO. No rolls to worry about on this one. I definitely wanted to play it safe here in this end game, just because, you know, if I choke it here at the end and end up losing, that could be really embarrassing. Just because, you know, we played decently well so far, but we are having to just, you know, be careful with what we sack. And of course, last comes in the Zygarde. I can't do anything to this with a low kick, so we're gonna go into our Thunderous. And, oh, no, actually, we go into Tyrantrum. It's been a while. So, yeah, we go into Tyrantrum just as a sack. Ground or Dragon move, doesn't matter. Tyrantrum is not going to appreciate it. So, yeah, we just need to be able to switch moves, and that's all it is. So we do have to just bring something in, sacrifice it, and then just go back into the Weavile so that it can use a different move. So it is what it is. It's just how you have to play these sometimes. But I think it's awesome. I think Choice Banded Weavile is super threatening. And as long as you play really carefully in the beginning of the game, like what we did, and, you know, preserve all of those mons, it really allowed us to be able to do this in the end. So we actually live the Core Enforcer, which is really funny. I'm gonna click EQ here, and we actually end up being faster, which is, you know, not something I expected, and we do a little bit of damage. So good job, Tyrantrum, you did something. And we go ahead and take ourselves out to HP to the Life Orb. So, you know, we're gonna go out on our own terms because we're a big boy and we can do what we want. And we're gonna go back into our Weavile here, just to wrap things up. So yeah, really good game for Weavile. Weavile kind of put in a lot of work, and this is honestly the reason why it took me so long to get a good match, was because Weavile kept being the big threat. Weavile ended up carrying me the entire time. And here I click Ice Shard, and it's because I don't want to miss a triple axle, because if I miss triple axle, that could be a big problem. And then I'm like, oh wait, my opponent can Dynamax. And so my opponent Dynamaxes. And so now I'm like, wait a minute, I could actually be in some trouble here, here at the end, because I didn't click triple axle. So we go ahead and Ice Shard here, and it lives. It was a roll at that point. So that's a little unfortunate that it was a roll. And it is not going to KO us, so it ends up being okay. But yeah, that was a roll. It could have KO'd there, but we got somewhat of a low roll. And then Power Construct happens. So yeah, this thing's scary. This thing's really scary. But yeah, so then it gets all that HP back, and we're gonna go for another Ice Shard. And yeah, things are scary. Things are very scary around here with Zygarde Complete. In my opinion, Zygarde Complete is very small compared to what it should be. I mean, look how short that thing is compared to, like, everything else. In my opinion, it's really short. So here is where I realize, okay, I can't do this again. I actually have to click triple axle, and that is how I win. Because Ice Shard is no longer a KO here, and Ice Shard plus Grass Knot is not guaranteed. So I'm just gonna click Focus Blast, because it does the most damage, and if I miss, it's not a huge deal, but, you know, it is what it is. So my opponent does click the Max Wormwind here, and I actually survived that pretty handily, which, good by me. And so yeah, Thunderous just being a beast, absolutely tanking that. And we're just gonna click the Focus Blast again. Again, if this misses, it really isn't that big of a deal for us because we do still have the Weavile in the back. And so we do miss, but it's all good, it's all good. So my opponent does go for the Core Enforcer here. And yeah, big old Z on the ground, still doesn't take us out. Still doesn't KO us, which is really, really funny. It's why you run 1,000 arrows. 1,000 arrows would have absolutely destroyed me there. And we don't actually KO it with that. If we had hit both, we would have KO'd it, but it's really not a huge deal. So Core Enforcer comes out one more time, goes ahead and takes out our Thunderous, and we can just safely go back into our Weavile and just click the Ice Shard, and that will go ahead and guarantee the win. So it ended up being kind of a close match just because the choice band really limited our options in the end. It kept us from just like straight sweeping, but if we had been Life Orb, we would have been in a bad position because we wouldn't have been able to, you know, work around it as freely as what we wanted to. But yeah, really good games today. I hope you guys enjoyed those. And again, make sure to leave a like on this video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We're going to be streaming Sunday night yet again, like we always do. And we're going to be hunting that elusive Kartana yet again. So I hope that you guys will stick around for that. And I hope to see you guys later. So yeah, stay safe out there. We'll see you later this weekend. Have a good one. Bye-bye.